Hello, good evening. Just want to call the meeting to order for the Oxnard Finance and Governance Committee for May 27th, 2025. Madam Clerk, may we have the roll call and posting of the agenda, please?
Chair MacArthur,
Here.
Committee Member Rodriguez,
Present.
Committee Member Starr.
Here.
The agenda for this meeting was posted in the kiosk at City Hall, the Oxnard Public Library, the city administrative offices, and on the city's website on Tuesday, May 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll take a moment of silence in honor of our former mayor, Dr. Tom Holden, who passed away on Monday, May 26th, and leaves behind his wife, Dr. Lisa Knapp, and sons, Dr. Patrick Holden, Dr. Jack Holden, and Nicholas Holden. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. We will go to the next item on the agenda. This is public comments for items not on the agenda. And I see we have one speaker, Gwyneth Doyle. Is that,
Chair MacArthur, that's actually for item number D3.
oh, I apologize. Okay,
My apologies.
thank you.
For items not on the agenda, Mayor and committee members, we do not have any speakers in person or virtually for items not on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the next item on the agenda. This is the consent agenda. And the only item I see here is the approval of the minutes for the May 13th, 2025 Finance and Governance Committee. Any members of this committee have any questions or comments? No?
Looks fine to me.
Okay, I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. I'll second that.
Committee Member Rodriguez,
Aye.
Committee Member Starr,
Here.
Chair
Aye.
MacArthur,
Aye.
and Chair MacArthur,
Yes,
and the motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
thank you. We'll move to the next item on the agenda. This is item D1, Annual Investment Policy and Delegation of Investment Authority. The recommendations that the Finance and Governance Committee recommend that the City Council, number one, adopt a resolution adopting fiscal year 2025-26 investment policy for the City of Oxnard. Two, adopt a resolution delegating investment authority to the City Chief Financial Officer. And we have Mr. Javier Chagoyan Lazaro here to answer any questions. Any committee members have any questions of staff on this item?
Yes.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
Yeah, and I guess my question is more for legal counsel on this. Can you tell me how we can legally do this? I might push back on you, but how is it that we can legally delegate the investment authority to the city chief financial officer?
So as stated in the staff report, the California Government Code allows for this type of delegation to certain professionals with training, specialization, and that is the way it was done last year, and that's the way it's being proposed again for this year.
Right. So I'm going to push back, and maybe you can tell me where I'm wrong here. So I'm looking at the two government codes that are referenced in the staff report, 53060, which says that the legislative body may contract with and employ any person for these various services. And I do see similar language in 37103. What I'm troubled with, when I can't figure out, is this: given that the language of 53607 says that the authority of the legislative body to invest or to reinvest funds of a local agency or to sell or exchange securities or purchase may be delegated for a one-year period by the legislative body to the treasurer of the local agency, who shall thereafter assume full responsibility for those transactions. And the rest is not all very relevant. I can read it out loud if you want me to. So my issue here is that it seems like we have something very specific as far as, the requirements here. And, just kind of like, borrowing from an old Latin legal phrase, expressio unius est exclusio alterius, which means to express or include one thing implies the exclusion of the other or of the alternative. So, when courts tend to look at this sort of thing, they look at a specific language, it seems to trump anything that's general. Otherwise, if I were to take the city's interpretation here, it means that the whole code section is a nullity. It's of no meaning whatsoever because we can ignore it and appoint anybody. So help me get past that.
Are you asking this of the city attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
So there are other statutes that make similar delegations to city officers in general, and such as the ability to invest in LAIF under a different provision of the government code. And this is an instance where there are similar duties that are delegated to not just the city treasurer. And in fact, it's not a requirement that the treasurer be
Absolutely.
delegated this authority.
And it could be the legislative body itself basically maintains this responsibility, though I don't think that's real practical. So, I mean, at least the way I'm reading this and is that I don't think we have the authority to do this action. I think that we could take it upon ourselves as the legislative body to do this. I think we can appoint it to the treasurer. I think we can even hire people, contract to people that would help assist the treasurer. But at the end of the day, I think it would be his responsibility if we delegate it to him, or it's our responsibility if we don't delegate it to them. So that's how I'm seeing it. Maybe I'm wrong, though.
So that has not been our conclusion on this, having reviewed the statutes.
Understood.
Okay. Mr. Rozell, do you have something?
Yes, happy to discuss further. So, Mr. Starr, I agree that it says that the city treasurer may have this ability. It's not exclusive, so it does not prohibit other bodies. And so I'm not as good at turning a Latin phrase as you are, but I would say in the same situation, it does not prevent the legislative body from delegating it to third parties. So that has been our position, that we have the ability to do that. The CFO has the duties, has the skills, has the ability to step in and take that role. And under no circumstances would this revert back to the city treasurer. That's something which must be delegated. So here, there is not that indication that he is entitled to this job. In fact, briefly, I wanted to read for the record, this was back in the case of Molina versus Nguyen. We were back in court on November 8th, 2022, and there was a question asked regarding the city treasurer's duties. And so this is a quote from Mr. Walker on page 28. So here it goes. The city treasurer's investment duties are subject to a separate statute that expressly makes them dependent upon a delegation from the city council. So the city council can give or take away his investment duties and his decisions on those issues. So his investment duties are not relevant. So I think that it's clear that the city treasurer is not entitled.
Hold on. Let's back up 1 second. You are right that the treasurer is not necessarily entitled to this duty. But the way the statute is written, it's either the city council or it's the treasurer. So yeah, if you want to say that we shouldn't give it to the treasurer, okay, I get that. I think you can make a good argument for why we shouldn't. But I don't think we've got a good argument for why we should give it to somebody else. I think it's something that has to be retained by us. Otherwise, there's absolutely no point to 53607. Because otherwise the legislature would have written, the state legislature would have written this in such a way saying that the authority of the legislative body could be, basically delegated to anybody out there, that at least who's qualified. But the state legislature went out of its way to say that it's the treasurer. So that's why I'm thinking, at least the way I've seen courts interpret this sort of thing is, if you got something really specific, in order for this to be, in order for it to have any meaning that's not just surplusage, then this exists and it has to be interpreted. The words have to mean something. But for me to accept the city's position here on this means that I must accept that this language here has no meaning, and the legislature just kind of they just left it there. So that's what I'm struggling with.
Okay, well, I understand your argument, and we respectfully disagree.
Okay, I get that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilwoman, any questions?
No, in terms of the proposed resolution or the policies, I think it looked pretty comprehensive and robust. It seems to be following code. I think the only recommendation I had was in section 10, page 21, investment pools. If we could consider some periodic review of how often we'd be evaluating the returns and fees, or is that something that we, like, do we do on an annual basis, biannually, or what that looks like? And I don't know if that would be the section where it would be included in. That was just the one piece that I was thinking, like, how often do we review? How often do we report back? So that might be a recommendation for something to consider.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one speaker on this item. Jim, come on up. Thank you, sir.
Hi, good to see you guys. Sorry for my voice. I was sitting at home, and I don't have a dog in this fight, but one of the things that I was thinking about at home is saying, we elected this guy to do this function. We elected Phil Molina. I'm not saying I voted for him, but or the guy that, I want to say this, Abdul Ador, who runs that popular website, who began as a writer. Don't get me started, but this is exactly what I'm worried about. We elected Phil Molina. He got 40-something thousand votes, way more. You're taking away the people's will. And what happens? Is he still going to get paid even though his duties are taken away from him? That means every politician who's retired, and I can name a few, is going to say, I'm going to get $140,000 or $50,000. I don't have to do any work. These are things that popped into my mind. I don't know if that's the intent, that. So, and then all the lawsuits, all the losses in court point to the judge ruling in a completely different direction. A judge says, give him back his duties. Now you're taking away the only basic duty he has. So, and I just want to say, I'm retired budget officer and finance officer. My first job, I'm going back a long time. I was an intern to the city treasurer here in Oxnard in 1984. He had a lot of responsibility, invest in the city's portfolio. And I don't think you can just give it to any guy. Plus have a problem with separation of duties. The guy in the finance director has all these people. They're doing the wires, they're doing the journal vouchers that balance the books. To me, that's a conflict. That's not separation of duties. I don't think you should have the finance director being the treasurer, because that's how things can happen that are bad. There's a lot of cities that have lost their investment portfolio over time. I'm not saying it's going to happen here, but I remember Camarillo it happened to in the 80s. I remember Orange County. So there's a lot of red flags in my mind that this didn't answer. To me, it seems like it's a vindictive action just against one person. And I don't see how it helps the city one way or the other. I'd rather have a treasurer, whoever it is. I don't care about the person who has a financial background. I want somebody who has expertise in that job. I don't want any guy off the street who's popular getting this job, So these are some of my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your comments with us. If If there's no further questions on this particular item, what's the desire of the committee members?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
City Attorney, I know you mentioned that last year this was the resolve. Historically, have we been doing this delegation of duties, or was it just last year the precedent?
Last year was the first time that this delegation was done.
Question. I assume that was after the first time it was done, that Molina's court case had a final disposition, is that right? Or at least a decision?
No, it is not.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to have some more discussion from the CFO, it would be useful for a discussion on why this decision was made last year.
Thank you.
Good evening, Javier Chagoya Lázaro, Chief Financial Officer, City of Oxnard. There was a couple circumstances that basically brought us to modify the delegation of an investment authority. There was reports from the external auditors that highlighted that the city treasurer was doing investments using his personal email rather than using the city email. And there was additional compliance issues, not only with the investment policy that the treasurer has put together, but also with the California Government Code, some reporting requirements that were omitted on the periodic report that the city treasurer was preparing for the city council. We also identified that there was investment security purchases that were not included or authorized in the city investment policy, that they were purchased by the city treasurer. And also there was an untimely renewal of the investment policy. So the investment policy is required to be approved at the beginning of each fiscal year. The last time the city treasury brought the investment policy was in December 2023, 6 months after the fiscal year was already beginning. Those are some examples of non-compliance issues that basically just brought us to ask City Council for a change in the delegation of investment authority.
Thank you. Mr. Rosell, do you remember what the outcome of the vote was when City Council took that action on that item?
My recollection, it was unanimous, but I don't have that in front of me.
It's okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Question.
Go ahead.
What would be the effect if we didn't adopt this motion?
If you didn't adopt this motion, then I believe this would move forward to the council without a recommendation.
And let me restate my question. What would be the effect if the city council didn't adopt the recommendations?
Then we would be in a situation where we would have to have time devoted for council consideration of investment decisions. However, well,
Okay,
hypothetical.
thank you.
I have a question.
Sure, I think Mr. Rosell has something to
please
add. Go ahead, Mr. Rosell.
If I could just add on to what Mr. Fisher said. So if there's not, an annual delegation, as you know, is required every year. So if the delegation is not made, it reverts back to the legislative body, and then the legislative body would be in charge of those decisions. You would have the option to also hire an outside firm to handle that, most likely in consultation with your CFO.
Thank you. Go ahead. Councilwoman.
Yes, there was a few examples shared about non-compliance earlier. Can you tell me the consequences for us not being in compliance and why the logical thing, or at the moment, the council voted in support of that? So we were out of compliance for 6 months when a report was due in June, and it wasn't done until December. And you shared a few other examples.
Yeah, so the fact that, for example, for 6 months, basically in 2023, the city didn't have a proper delegation of the investment authority and as well as a proper approved investment policy. We could be subject to litigation for third parties for not being in compliance with all investment policy and regulations. That's definitely a risk.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Couldn't you accomplish the same thing by having a consultant who works with the city treasurer in order to avoid that?
I'm sorry, avoiding what?
Couldn't you accomplish the same thing by having a consultant assist, or the CFO assist, I suppose, the treasurer, to make sure that everything happens, but the treasurer would still be ultimately responsible? Is there a reason why that wouldn't work?
That's why we are presenting this recommendation to City Council, to make sure that the city is fully in compliance with both government code and investment policy.
Okay.
Thank you. If there are no further questions of staff, what's the desire of this committee here on this item?
And Chair MacArthur and committee members, that concludes our speakers on this item, in person and virtually. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move the recommended action of adopting the resolution and delegating the investment authority to CFO.
So I'll argue against it, which is that I don't think we can legally do this. That's just where I'm coming from. I think there's other ways of handling this.
Okay, good. I second the motion presented by Councilwoman.
Committee Member Starr,
No.
Chair MacArthur,
Yes.
Committee Member Rodriguez,
Aye.
and the motion carries 2-1 with Committee Member Starr voting no. Thank you.
We will move to the next item in the agenda. This is item D2 from the Public Works Department. Fiscal year 25-26 resolution to levy assessments in the Waterway Maintenance District. The recommendation is that the Finance and Governance Committee recommend that the City Council, acting as the legislative body for the Waterways Maintenance District, 1, hold a public hearing regarding proposed assessments for the Waterways Maintenance District for fiscal year 25-26, and 2, adopt a resolution to levy the maintenance assessment on property within the Waterways Maintenance District for fiscal year 25-26. Any committee members have any questions on staff? And also, do we have any public speakers on this particular item?
Chair MacArthur and committee members, we do not have any public speakers in person or virtually. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Starr.
Can you tell what the consequence would be if the council were to not adopt the resolution to levy the maintenance assessment?
Good evening, committee. The direct consequence of the council not voting to adopt the assessment would be that an assessment wouldn't be levied. That would be the initial consequence.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rodriguez, you have any questions or anything on this item?
I don't have questions. I thought it was pretty straightforward. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
So when the time comes for a vote, I'll be voting no on this recommendation, because at no point have the registered voters in this district been given the opportunity to approve this tax in a general election. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. I make a motion to adopt the recommended action.
And I second that motion.
Chair MacArthur,
Yes.
Committee Member Rodriguez,
Aye.
Committee Member Starr,
Yes. Or no, I'm
He
sorry.
already said yes. Let's register that one.
Sorry, no.
It's unanimous, Madam Clerk.
that's okay. The motion carries 2-1 with Committee Member Starr voting no. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to item D3 from Public Works, fiscal year 25-26, special tax levy for community facility districts numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm sorry, 4, 5, 8, 9, and 2003. Recommendations of the Finance and Governance Committee recommend that the City Council, acting as the legislative body for community facilities districts, otherwise known as CFDs, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, and 2003. 1, adopt a resolution setting a special tax rate within CFD number 1, which is the Westport at Mandalay Bay for fiscal year 25-26. Adopt a resolution setting a special tax rate within CFD 2, Westport at Mandalay Bay for fiscal year 25-26. Adopt a resolution setting a special tax rate within CFD number 3, Seabridge and Mandalay Bay for fiscal year 25-26. Adopt a resolution setting a special tax rate within CFD 4, Seabridge and Mandalay Bay for fiscal year 25-26. 5, adopt a resolution setting a special tax rate within CFD number 5, River Park for fiscal year 25-26. 5, adopt a resolution setting a special tax rate within CFD number 8, Sakioka Farms Business Park for fiscal years 25-26. 6, adopt a resolution setting a special tax rate within CFD number 9, North Shore and Mandalay Bay for fiscal year 25-26. 7, adopt a resolution setting a special tax rate within CFD number 2003, which is Oxnard Boulevard Highway 101 interchange for fiscal year 25-26. And lastly, authorize the Public Works Director or designee to execute an agreement for billing of direct assessments with the Ventura County Auditor Controller to provide the service of placement of direct assessments on the Ventura County secured tax roll. And Mr. Michael Wolf is here to answer any questions we may have. We also have a speaker on this item as well. And, go ahead.
I just wanted to share ex parte communication, but I really think it was constituents just sharing their concerns. I met with CFD number 5 constituents about their concerns and support and issues.
Thank you, noted. Anything?
I didn't meet with anybody. I would like to hear from the speaker, but I'll have some questions afterwards.
If we don't have any questions at this time, we'll go to the speakers. First, Mrs. Gwyneth Doyle.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak. I'm representing the River Park Neighborhood CFD 5 Subcommittee. Several of our members are here in the audience. We have been working with the city staff on this budget item since November 2024 with special districts and city staff. We'd like to thank special districts for educating us and helping us to understand the budget process so that we can make an informed decision regarding how our CFD funds are allocated. And we'd like to thank the city staff for working with us as well. We agree with the recommendations within the budget, and we are requesting that the committee approve it as submitted to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doyle. Madam Clerk, just to confirm, that was the only speaker?
Chair McCarthy and committee members, that was our last speaker in person, and we do not have any speakers virtually for this item. Thank you.
I know, Mr. Shaw, you want to hear from staff on this item?
Yeah, I do have some questions.
Go ahead.
So I guess first I have a request. So I'm looking at the resolutions for the CFDs for Seabridge. Right, and there is a reference to the resolution of formation. What I think is missing and needs to be incorporated here is there were several ballot measures back in 2018 which modified that, which aren't reflected there. So for example, for CFD 3, the voters there adopted resolution number 15138, which reduces the special tax for overhead charges in Seabridge. And then the voters also adopted resolution number 15104, reducing the maximum special tax in Seabridge, and that affects CFD 4, as well as resolution number 15139, which reduces the Harbor Patrol special tax in Seabridge, CFD 4. So my request would be that we include that in the resolution, because I don't want somebody someday to lose track of that. In the case of the River Park CFD, for River Park for CFD 5, the resolution does not make any reference to the modification made by voters in November 2024. And I think that's resolution 15805, which was called Measure I at the time. So I think that it would be appropriate to add some language here saying that that's been modified by the voters to reflect that change. So those are my requests. I guess my question is, would that be, is there any reason why that couldn't be included in the package for when it comes before council?
I do not see any reason why, by the way, excuse me, Special District Manager Anthony Miller, good evening again, committee. I do not see any reason why we wouldn't be able to reference some of those resolutions. I'd have to read through them again to make sure that there's a specific place for them within the resolution. I do actually have the city's Special Districts Council who has helped draft these resolutions actually last year on the call here as well. And I don't believe there's a specific question that he may be able to address in further than what I have just said, but it is something that we can absolutely look into, including the language on.
Yeah, that'd be great. So I do have some questions. So one thing is that I really didn't see how the amounts were arrived at. You know, there is a reference to an NBS report, which is not included in the packet, and nor is it online. When I look online, I don't see the report for last year. The most recent report I see is for 2023, 2024. I don't see the one for 2024, 2025. So my request is that a document or documents be included with the staff report for the council, full council, that shows the calculations and how those calculations compare to the previous year. We've had reports in the past where that has been shown. I think it was a good practice, and I think it would be good if the city can go back to doing that again. Is that something that can be reasonably accomplished, do you think?
So there are two specific, so the specific report that is referenced in the resolutions actually refers to the final billing detail report, which is in the packet.
Okay.
Now, those billing detail reports are effectively, that's the tax roll. So those property classifications and which assessment, or sorry, excuse me, at which levy rate that they're at are reflected within those documents. Now, that can be absolutely tabulated and placed into a table. And it is something that is performed, if I'm quoting the code correctly, it's performed, I believe, by December 31st of every year during the annual reporting process. But it's not something that is referenced within these specific resolutions exactly.
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is, as a council member, I would just like to be able to see the report, which, for how we come up with these figures, because we had some latitude as a city for how much this assessment could be, and somehow we came up with this amount overall. But there's nothing in this report, nor is there anything that I could see online that would tell me how we came up with these numbers. I'm not saying the numbers are wrong. I'm just simply saying that I have no basis to come to any conclusion based on just looking at this report. And I'll also add that, so I don't see anywhere in the report, I think I mentioned this sort of, that how much taxes are being increased or perhaps decreased from the previous year in each of the CFDs. I did take a spot check looking at CFD 5, looking at the previous year's report, and I do see that in the case of CFD 5 that the tax was actually decreased by 2.6%, which is great. But I guess my request would be that the staff report make mention of the changes in the tax rate, ideally by parcel, which is something this city has done in somewhat recent years, maybe not the last few.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you just want some comparables.
Yeah, I want comparables. I want so that if a member of the public looks at the report, or if we look at this report, we could easily see, oh, okay, this address, the property tax has gone up by this much, or it's gone down by that much. Right now, this is just basically saying, hey, this is what we want to charge, and we're done. let's approve it. I think the folks deserve to be able to know how much their taxes changed from the previous year, or how much we're proposing their tax be changed from the previous year.
Good afternoon, Michael Wolf, Director of Public Works. Just a couple of things. I'll let Anthony respond to some of the specifics. Some of these CFDs are bonded CFDs.
Yep.
So I want to make sure we're clear that those are like amortization of so those will just be
That's fine.
exactly what the payments are. We did include the total assessments for last year, in the staff report, so anybody who wants to look at what those total assessments were last year and compare them to this year, they certainly can. Also, last year, the tax roll was included in the staff report, so if anybody was that interested in those, they can pull up last year's staff report and this year's staff report, and they can borrow my calculator if they wanted to and do that calculation.
Sure, I
But-
guess they could even look at their property tax bill, I suppose, if they want to dig that up. But
Right.
I'm just simply saying, let's just make it convenient for people. It's not a real hardship for us to provide the information. I think people would appreciate it knowing, I mean, someone like me, I know which meeting roughly to go to each year to find these assessments, but I think the typical person isn't going to know how to navigate the city's website and go, oh, I'm going to look through the minutes of a report in June or May of a previous, that's just a lot to ask of people. I think it's just better if we just be right up front, completely disclose it, let them be able to see what's happening. That's my recommendation.
And we also pay a consultant to do this work, so that potentially, I'm not sure I'm of the mind to pay that consultant to do that calculation when somebody can do it at home for themselves.
Right.
If somebody wanted to contact us, we can let them know which agenda to look at if they want to do that calculation. I just think it's information that's readily available for them to do their calculations.
Understood.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Oh, I was just wondering, are we looking for trends? Are we looking for a specific, let's say, household? Like, if I'm interested on a personal note, or are we looking for trends as a whole? Because
Both.
what I'm really considering, I really want to be considerate of staff time, because I know when I call and I have several questions, like I'm taking away from like us getting the work done on a daily basis. So is that something that could be found in the dashboard, where folks can filter and sort through the dashboard that we have electronically, and people could dig deep into it and see the trends, or not? No, it has to be case by case.
No, so you can look at the totals year over year, but ultimately, these are created based on the budget meetings that we have with the districts. So particularly in regard to the CFDs, these are not just random rates that we pull out of thin air to levy. We go to discuss what projects the district wants to see done during a specific fiscal year. And then we create their budgets based on those projects, based on those desires, and then the levy is created based off of that. So we can, in terms of property classification and how this is split, that is done during the creation of the tax roll. I will say to Mr. Starr's request in terms of tabulating that, that tabulation can be done. But in terms of historical, in terms of adopting a rate and method of apportionment for this particular fiscal year, I would, as a staff member, would only recommend that you consider the current fiscal year tables as a part of your report.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't have any other questions. I'll make a statement. If I had everything here that I wanted, I would vote in favor of the CFD 5 tax, because I know that the voters there had an opportunity to vote for it. They voted for it with over 2/3 of the electorate. That's a perfectly legitimate tax. In the case of the other CFDs, the voters there electorate has never had an opportunity for vote for these taxes, and for that reason, I would be voting against that.
Understood. I make a motion to adopt the recommended action.
I'll second that motion.
Committee Member Rodriguez?
Aye.
Committee Member Starr?
No.
Chair MacArthur?
Yes.
And the motion carries 2-1 with Committee Member Starr voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. I think that's it for our agenda. Unless there's any future agenda items and there being no further business, and without objection, we're adjourned. Thank you.